Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. Hope y'all are hearing me. You know what time it is, folks. That's right. It's time for more in the hot box with Doc Rio, and we are here today. We are here today to talk to you about failing to succeed. All right, there. That's my radio check right there that I was trying to do earlier, but for some reason it wasn't coming through. You know, sometimes it takes a second for the mixer phone to kick into that channel. So whenever you hear me say my phone is going off, it's not my phone ringing because my phone that usually rings is over here. This is usually my media phone that I'm using to keep track of what's going on and make sure that the live stream is coming to you the way that I'd like to display it to you. Like in the next process, once I do build that computer, it's going to be another screen that does the same thing. And the problem is the sound. You want to make sure the sound's coming through. So, but those are failures that I had to learn from in the past to make sure and check things like that. And that's why I'm bringing this lesson to you today. So if you like what you hear, make sure you click that follow button down below. And if you're watching the replay on YouTube that comes out the next week, comes out next Saturday at around 8 a.m. If I get my scheduler right, it went out crazy this week. But next Saturday at 8 a.m., it's supposed to be out. It's going to be out. I'm posting it out there for you all. And if you're actually coming from the replay that you see on YouTube and you're watching that replay and you like what you see, you want to hear more, you want to find out when I post out more content like this, go ahead and click the subscribe button below. And don't forget to click that bell for future notifications. Anyway, it's that time. So let's get into it. Stand by because we'll be right back. Look at us up on Doc Rio TV. All right, you know what time it is. It's time for more in the hot box with Doc Rio. And today we're talking about how to fail to succeed. I think a lot of us get caught up in this word failure. And we have this stigma with the word failure. I've read a few different things about it. And I was reading something that, failure actually, it was actually in this editorial on failure by Jan Zaglinski. And matter of fact, let me pull up exactly what I was reading by them. And I felt it to be kind of pessimistic, actually, especially being that, I don't know, I think that we should spend more time. Oh, I would have to log in to get to that right now. So let's see if I can pop it up right here for you all since I downloaded it. And let's see here. Well, I should have sent it to myself, right? But basically, let's jump out of it. Basically, they were talking about the problem with failure is that it has several different layers. And one of those things that it has 7 different layers is that it has, I want to say it has many, well, it says it has many faces, but I call those layers because they're layers in humanity that we all have. We have our personal layers, we have our institutional layers, we have our constrained layers, we have our systematic layers. And I mean, we could end up having those all fail on us, you know what I'm saying, through the things that we do. And all at once, it could lead us into this deep depression. So one thing about failure is that I feel like we're supposed to learn from our failures. We're supposed to learn and grow. That's why I talk about that grow to go. So since failure has many faces, and it's funny that this actual article that I was reading from quoted Bob Dylan. It says, "There is no success like failure, and failure is no success at all." Its major point to me is that it was trying to say that, you can't fail without success. And if you fail, you're never really going to succeed. So, but I think what Bob Dylan was trying to say is that you cannot fail. I feel like I'm a Jimi Hendrix fan, and Jimi Hendrix was a Bob Dylan fan, and I love a lot of Bob Dylan songs, and I love a lot of Jimi Hendrix songs, so I feel like I have this musical connection to them. So that's just my personal preference. So I feel like Bob Dylan was trying to say, you know, you're not going to be able to have success without having any failure. But if you fail and you let that failure get to you and bring you down, you're not going to succeed at all. That's what I feel like he was saying. But, you know, I could be wrong. He is one of the most successful musicians of all time. I think he's like number 25th. Alice's Restaurant is like the number 25th album of all greatest album of all times. And he's got more on that list of the greatest Billboard's greatest album of all times. I mean, that's something don't quote me on the numbers. It might be 56 or something, but he's on that list of 100 albums of greatest albums of all times. And I think he's on there more than 3 or 2 times. Don't quote me on that. But anyway, and I say don't quote me on that because I don't have the information and I don't want to pull up anything that might stall the broadcast. I was a little worried. I moved pages earlier and I might have stalled the broadcast in the middle of attempting to explain that. And so I might have failed at something that I know not to do, and that's not learning from it. You see, learning from it for me would have been to not move the page, even if I needed that for emergency, maybe even use this phone to look it up if I needed to, you know? And I think we have to stop doing things sometimes the same old way. But, like, you know, before I even get into that, let's get into the lessons, because the lesson's going to reveal some of those things as well. You know, as I was saying before, that if we allow that failure is no success at all, that Bob Dylan was talking about. If we allow that failure to overcome us and overwhelm us, it leads to depression. I mean, it's going to lead to some kind of depression anyway, because we're disappointed in ourselves or we're disappointed in the people around us. And that's going to bring us down a little bit, you know, but that's where that keeping that PMA should help us out, because we shouldn't want to quit. We shouldn't be deterred from trying to reach our dreams. You see, that's what failure does to many of us. As I was saying in that last lesson before, and I took that out of the soundbite, that, you know, I'm not saying it's bad that people end up in cubicles. I think we should all end up in a cubicle for a certain amount of time and use that cubicle to maintain and gain our success. Use those stepping stones, because those stepping stones teach us of where we don't want to be, so that we can take and find meaning in that area and figure out how we can utilize that position to gain financial growth and use that financial growth. Wow. I didn't even see. I'm not even hearing anything. Is my thing on mute? Are people busting in and I'm not hearing anything? Okay, no. Oh, thank you for the follow, Miss Eve Soul. I did not even get that. Oh, wow. Thank you for the follow, Miss Evil Soul Sour Patch. Miss Evil Sour Patch. Mrs. Evil Sour Patch. Ooh, I kind of like that. Reminds me of Sour Patch Kids. You know, but anyway, I mean, if we allow those things to take over us, we're gonna want to quit, and we don't need to be in a process of wanting to quit. We need to, for ourselves. I want to take it to this. You know, I've been avoiding this, but I'm just gonna be real about it with you. You know, and it's something that's near and dear to me. I had a lot of failures, and people are probably wondering, who am I to even talk about this? I've had a lot of failures in my life. So as many other people that I've known throughout our years in experience, especially in the entertainment industry. I grew up in this industry as a child. Grew up in this industry going to a school that was for visual and performing arts, going to a school that would not have allowed me in it to begin with. I just happened to be already there. I just happened to be that neighborhood child who mom advocated for us to be able to use instruments through the LAUSD. She advocated to say that children should be able to use free instruments. And because this is a performing arts school, they should be allowed to have free instruments. This is a person that stood up for the rights of education because she loved education. I mean, she still loves education. Don't get me wrong. My mom loves education way more than I think I would ever love education. But I think I love teaching. So I think I got that love from her. And then on the other side, my dad was a teacher, and I've gotten that love from him. And, you know, people say that a lot of things about you. There's things that are genetic about you that come from your family, your parents, your chain of lineage, because DNA uh, asserts itself from different pieces of DNA throughout time, and we are all a makeup of that. It's its own code. It's its own genetic code that is gifted to us by the people who came before us. All right. And so when people don't think that you are part of something that came before you and your genetic DNA has those codings in it, then it's obvious for us to understand that there is some truth to creationism, and there is some truth to religionism, or maybe a combination of religion is combined off the idea of creationism and the idea of evolutionism. You see what I'm saying? There is this whole pattern of this all, to me, coming together, because I feel like if you take everything down to its finest point, the atom, everything is a replication of that. And if the Big Bang was caused by God, who's to say God wasn't the atom that programmed all the atoms in the universe? So let's contemplate on that for a second. But in that time, like I said before, in that creation period, there are successes and failures. You know, there are attempts to create humanoids that failed. Australopithecus failed, you know, because it was taken over by another species. Now, that next species was taken over by us, Homo sapien. You see what I'm saying? There's stages of our growth and our evolution, and there's stages of us being who we are. We failed, we succeeded, we almost were wiped off this planet once before, down to 66, I believe 66 people. I got to bring that back up. That's in anthropology again. Down to 66 people. That 66 people left us to nothing. But for me, I grew up in South Central Los Angeles, and I grew up in South Central Los Angeles going to a school trying to be somebody who I was not. I say that one more time. I was trying to be somebody, or dreaming to be somebody I was not. I was a poor kid from South Central Los Angeles. I didn't want to accept that. I wanted to accept the fact, those of you who know me from junior high school, elementary school, 32nd Street, USC Magnet School, know what I did through those times. I became an activist for the rights of those people who didn't have the rights to be free in their own country. I became an activist for those who were stuck in apartheid in South Africa. I became an activist to help free Nelson Mandela from a prison cell. I became an activist who sat in at the South African consulate near Christmas and who was arrested in a Santa Claus hat and put in the newspaper for my bravery, as the cops slammed me into the elevator while I was being limped, slammed me by my face as a child, slammed me not once but twice but 3 times, and said, if you want this to stop, you're going to put your feet to the floor with an N-word. Okay? These are the things I grew up with, understanding that when I was in the hood, I can walk down one street in the hood, and then I turn down another street in the hood. Somebody is going to look at what I'm wearing and say, why you wearing all that blue, or why you wearing all that red? In another term, take me and try to jump me from 5 different angles with 6 or 7 different people and try to get me into their gang. I also lived on the same streets where the police officer would look at me on that same street, take me, beat me in the back of, beat me and put me in a hog tie me, beat me and hog tie me and put me in the back of a car and throw me out in the street that was nowhere near my neighborhood, miles away. I also lived at a time when people would get caught in this evolution of drugs, this change of powder cocaine to crack cocaine, and what it did to people during our time, what it did to families, what it did to my family, how it changed how I saw the world. This is what I grew up in. And if you ever see me look over here to the left, it's to make sure that the mixer's still going, that the stream's still going, because you know how Xbox can be. I'm streaming through Xbox and I'm streaming in my computer at the same time. So it's a double stream here. But I grew up in a time when I could walk down the street with a trumpet and a French horn and get chased by people who wanted to jack me, beat me, kill me, and shoot me. Not once. They didn't shoot me just once. They shot me twice, but no, they shot me 3 times. Yes. Before I went into the military, I saw 3 bullets pass through my skin. Maybe not seen them, but felt them. Actually, I didn't even feel one of them until later. That's just the way it is. I lived in a world that if you didn't comply, or if your family didn't comply, your family was a target. And I left that world to go to school in a world where many were privileged with not having to deal with all of that before they even got up in the morning. All of that going on the way home and heading to the bus stop to get to school. This is what I lived through. This is what I survived through. And a lot of people look at me differently, but a lot of times I feel like it was nothing to it. It was what I had to do. You know, I remember seeing a child on a movie. I believe it was a movie, but I was also talking to somebody who said the same thing. And they were talking about growing up in a war zone. And I was actually talking to somebody who said this first, and then I heard something similar on a TV show. So you know how similar, I saw something similar on a TV show. So you know how similar things are. But this guy said that his parents led him into the cellar, the bomb shelter in the cellar, to get him away from the bombs outside. And I heard this years ago, and then all of a sudden a movie came out, or a TV show came out with the same concept, that the kid went inside the bomb shelter, but he didn't want to stay inside the bomb shelter. He wanted to go out and see what was going on. And he could see his neighbor's houses being blown up, and the bombs blew up all around him, but it didn't land on his house. But this is the world he lived in. This is the world he believed in. I mean, this is what he lived through. And although his parents were scared, he wasn't scared to see the face of war, the face of death. This is just what he had to survive through. And so for me, it was what I had to survive through, but there was a different face. There was a different face that I portrayed when I went to elementary school. There was a different face that I portrayed when I went to junior high school, same school, 32nd Street, for 10 years. All right. I was at that school, and that school evolved me. At that school, I evolved into being something different. When I came to school, I could become somebody different. I could act, I could sing, I could dance, I could play the trumpet. I could be around crowds of people who cared about me for being me and not look down on me, who wouldn't sympathize with me, but would empathize with me. This is important because that empathy allowed me to grow. That empathy gave me strength. There are many families in that community that supported me, that gave me strength. But when that strength was gone, when I made it through that high school period and that strength was gone, and those families weren't there, and those people weren't there, I had no direction. I took what I thought was only the best choice. Well, plus it was a promise, because I had no direction and had ran around this town. You know, what I say in my own people, in my own song, I went around this town, you know, robbing from my own people in a sense, you know, hurting my own people. You know what I mean? And for me, by this time I lived in two worlds. One was a world of war, and one was a world of peace. It was so they were so bipolar. You know, I wonder if that has a fact of growing up with PTSD, living in such a bipolar world, and then going into the military and things become more post-traumatic, because it is even more bipolar when you go from uh garrison to a combat or a field situation. Turn that phone so I don't hit it again. It is so much more. I don't know. It's so much more extreme, I want to say. And your focus becomes either one side or the other. You know, I think had I gone to West Point, Lieutenant Coglianese, and I'm talking to you because that was your goal to get me in West Point, and I know I truly upset you by not going, but I'm thinking that because I was in the situation I was in, because my mom and I weren't connected, because I really had nobody at the time. Yes, the Veras were there, but no, the Veras didn't understand me. A kid from South Central didn't really understand me for being me. And I've changed that. And I think part of my failures throughout life have been the fact that going through these voyages, I had to learn. I had to learn that I had to be there for myself first. I was always there for other people. I was always there for the people who were helping me, but I didn't know how to be there for me. When I was all alone, I was all alone. And I thought everything was just going to be A-okay. Especially coming from California, being in the South. It's a failure. That's not understanding where you're at and not having the knowledge or the foresight to know how the future might be. You know, and I think had I continued studies, had I continued taking in knowledge, had I continued preparing myself for the road to come, as I thought I was, you know, because I was avoiding some detours that I knew those detours were the wrong way. I was avoiding a lot of detours, but I was just avoiding them in a streetwise sense. All I knew when it came to survival, when it came to surviving war, that's what I knew. When it came to surviving peace, peace was easy. Peace was allowing me to get out all that aggression that I had in war out on those who cause more war. You know, being with and around the children of war and seeing such savagery done to children, to people, and then going into the military and understanding that there's another side to the savagery. There's another side to this whole concept. There's a side that I could actually be proud of, and there's a side that I can't be proud of. And there's a side that makes me a patriot. Having this duality is something that each and every one of us has. My failure was to accept that duality. And now I've accepted it. Now I've accepted that, you know, I'm gonna be bad at some things, good at some other things. And yeah, I may sometimes even argue about it with some people sometimes and not supposed to, and then later come back and talk to them about it because I realize I'm wrong. Because sometimes being wrong, or as I said before, Doc Rio says, sometimes being right is wrong. Because it's the truth. You know, when we sit around and think that we're right all the time, sometimes we haven't the foresight to see that we could be wrong. So I was reading another article and I felt that this was the secret to handling failure. And I'm going to go through some of these steps real quick. I had to find an article that kind of fit what I was saying because I feel like it really fit the approach that I would take as a musician, as an artist, as a person, as I feel as a person of interest in the communities I've been involved in. These would be the routes that I would take. Knowing the people that I know who are people of interest. I know a lot of people who are people of interest because I grew up with them. And they are people of interest in, if you're in your community, they're probably people of interest in your community and you don't even know it. I know plenty of people who are. And I know you know who I'm talking about. Those of you out there fighting for your community, fighting for the people, fighting for the children, fighting for the adults, fighting for the heart and soul of the people out there. And some of you are on the other side of the fence, fighting for the strength of our country, fighting for the strength of our economic growth, fighting for the battles that we face every day, protecting our freedom. There's a two-sided coin to this. We can't have one without the other. This is what, like we can't have light without the dark. Light without the dark. We can't have good without evil. This is the world, the universe we live in. Electrons, protons, and neutrons. There's always going to be the triad. Remember that. Because everything we do has three parts. Our heart, soul, and mind. Our body, soul, and mind. You know what I mean? There are three parts. Everything in this universe. We're created just like the atom. Because the atom created us. And the omnipotent atom created the universe. I say again, the omnipotent atom created the universe. So, this article is some simple rules. It stems off some simple rules because I was reading Simple Rules by Donald Soul and Kathleen Eisenbart. Matter of fact, of course, I have the book right here. Simple Rules. Simple Rules. If you haven't read this book, I suggest you do. You can also get it on Audible. I also put a link to the book on the YouTube post. But in this book, as a matter of fact, in this book, I'm coming from a few things today because failure is perplexing. I think a lot of people find it disheartening. We all do. We all find it disheartening. Not a lot of people. We all find failure disheartening. But we can't let it control us. And there's two sections in this book that if you pick it up, I want you to read. I'm not going to read from the book, but it's the second two chapters. Chapter 2 is making better decisions, and chapter 3 is doing things better. So when you get this book, look up those two chapters. If you're listening to it on Audible, remember chapter 0 is the intro. So that would be chapter 3 and 4. If you're looking at it in the book, then it's going to be chapter 2 and 3. So, but use simple rules to try to get back on your path. And that's why I'm bringing up these 10 steps so they can be some simple rules. And these 10 ways to turn failures into success by Charles C. Manns. This article, I'll put this article also in a link if you're watching this on the YouTube replay. Break down a little process that we can use to help us take those steps. I mean, we need to take steps to get out of this path of failure. I understand now for me that all those years of failure that I've gone through, I've done things over and over again. And, you know, I said something about there's a thin line between genius and insanity. There is a thin line between genius and insanity. And to know that and to understand that, I have to be insane myself. Yes, I say that. Why? Because I feel like I'm on that. I am a genius. I've been tested for being a genius, and I am a genius. Low-level genius. I mean, I'm probably becoming more and more a genius the more I study today. They said that sometimes people can become more, you know, a learner can become a genius later, more of a genius later in their life. But I feel like I've been an insane genius. You see, an insane genius is somebody who can continually, it's like a functioning alcoholic. You see, a functioning alcoholic is somebody who can drink whenever they can, but they can do everything that they need to do to make it look like they aren't an alcoholic. You see, a insane genius can do things in the realm of, you know, superior. I want to say they can do things in, I don't want to say superior. They can do things that are remarkable. Let's just say that. You know, I mean, I want to bring it down to earth size because I don't want people to think that somebody being genius is more superior. It's the mediocre person usually, according to statistics, it's the person who's mediocre that actually advances further. But then I feel like a person who's mediocre can advance further and then become a genius. And when they become a genius, they fall into this realm as well. You know, you have the Kanye West, sorry Kanye, of the world who, step out into a ballpark and don't really understand themselves to a point to where he might understand himself to a point, but I don't think he understands the world to a point, to an extent to where he can really find his true being, his true nature, because he's lost the person who could guide him in his life through the industrial complex. He's lost the person who can really tap into where he should be in his heart. We've all had that happen. So I'm not putting him down. I mean, Kanye is just a living soul and being too. So when you hear him say something weird, just like you hear somebody else out there say something weird, you know what I mean? I don't want to get into that. But when you hear people out there saying stuff that just doesn't make sense to you, you have to understand that they may be on that verge, that thin line of genius and insanity. Because one of the things that the insanity does is it has us repeat things over and 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 over again until we find the right path. You see, Thomas Edison was a genius. He had to be a genius, an insane genius, to create the light bulb. Even I say this all the time. He said, I didn't find ways to fail. I found ways to succeed. Anybody you've seen out there that have put their all, their passion, their soul, their heart into everything that they're doing, and succeeded, they had to fail thousands of times along the way to get there. And to think, they had to have some insanity to it. They had to try something the same way a few dozen times before they said, oh, wait. Maybe it'll work differently if I do this. Some of the biggest scientists you've ever seen in the world do that all the time. All of a sudden, one day they're looking at a formula and the next thing you know, boop, in their head, the idea comes and they're like, wow, I never would have saw that. I was one number off. I was this off. You see, because creation is not it is a science, but creation there's a science to it. There's a balance to it. There's a human element to it. There's an instinctual part to it. There's a atomic part to it. You see, life is about balance and is about growth and is about how we can make our roads through creating, just like that in which created us. I think that's the most important part of this, that anybody could partake. We are mirror images of what created us, whether it be an atom or whether it be an actual being. In actuality, it's both, because nobody in this world was created without an actual being. And if you were, I'd like to meet you. If you just spontaneously appeared on this planet, I definitely would like to meet you, because you got something to tell me. You got something to teach me. You got something I can learn from. Because until this time in our life, our science, our understanding, that wouldn't equate. Now, these 10 tips, these 10 ways to turn failure into success stem off the idea that you can change your path. You can change your road. You see, I really feel like we have to change our road in order to grow. You see, if we don't grow, we can't go. We become stagnant. We don't go anywhere. We don't become anything. And the truth is, if we can just help one person change their world. I say again, if we can just help one person change their world for the better, then we've done our duty here on earth. I just want y'all to think about that for a second. And I'm sure many of you Many of you out there have done more than just change one person's world. Some of you have children. Some of you have helped children become adults. Some of you have raised children. Some of you have helped neighbors, friends, family members. Some of you have been a part of your community. And you're being called to be a part of it more. Reach out into your community. Don't let failure bring you down when you can, one, redefine failure. Failure is not the end. It's only a beginning to another step, because we are inquisitive people and we require this thought. We have to change our mindset about failure. When we change our mindset, when we change our attitude, it changes our altitude. They talk about that all the time. When we change our mindset, we go on to a new voyage. But it also helps us redefine success. You see, Charles C. Mann says we have to redefine success. And I've read that in several different books. All of them talk about it all the time. You know what I mean? We got to, once we start working on our mindset, we got to look at, okay, well, it didn't work going this way. We don't want to keep butting our heads up against the wall. You know what I mean? When I was in the military, we did one of these things. When I was in the military, you know what I'm saying? There was this rule that as a Cav Scout, you cannot be lost. You are not lost. You do not get lost. I still to this day got this stuck in my head. No, we ain't lost. I'll figure it out. You know what I mean? Afterwards, sometimes I laugh. I was like, man, I was Lima Mike Foxtrot. You know what I mean? But still, in the military, I was taught, and I'm not going to repeat what that means. You can look that up yourselves, folks. But I was taught in the military that a Cav Scout does not get lost. We get disoriented. Never heard that before in my life until I joined the military. You know, and that's a change in mindset, because disorientation allows us, when we're doing land navigation and you're out there with a compass and a map that's got lines on it, and those lines only signify height and depth of the terrain, and it got grid coordinates on it, and you've got to figure out where at on this grid that you're going to go to get to this particular point, and you got to figure out what the terrain features mean by the knowing what they mean by heart in here. And you got to know how to plot an azimuth from a compass using a destination, a couple of destinations out there, a couple of landmarks out there to triangulate your location. Because you're not lost, you're just disoriented. Never be lost. Redefine success. Remap your trajectory. Understand that you can stand out there with your compass and figure out where you went wrong. Stop and take a step back. A step back sometimes allows you to jump forward. Then stay persistent. You know, because it is not the end. Like we said before, we have to win in order to lose. We have to win in order to lose. I was actually watching something on TV. What was it, last night? I think it's called CBS. No, maybe it was NBC. It was one of these shows, The Grand Story or something. I think it was A Grand Story or A Great Story. The Great Story. And they were talking about this janitor. And this janitor, he's like, yeah, man, you know, people wouldn't know that I'm educated. People wouldn't know that I walk around and do different things, that I'm studied. Because when they look at me, they just see a janitor. But what they didn't know is that he was a professional opera singer. This guy was training so that he could become a better opera singer and perform as in an opening act on a show. But his regular side job is a janitor. That's his cubicle. Being in it as a janitor is his cubicle. But it allows him that venture to go out there and be an opera singer. It allows him to fulfill his dream. You see what I'm saying? So it's not a bad thing being stuck in a cubicle. It's a bad thing being stuck in a cubicle when you're wondering why you're stuck in a cubicle. Instead of saying, okay, I know why I'm stuck in this cubicle, because I'm finding meaning by building the world that I want to build out here, over here. I'm finding meaning by creating the world that I want to live in, by creating the community, by being a part of the society I want to be involved in. That is what we need to do. It says, hold on to your dreams because no one cares about it as much as you do. That's what he said. I wish I didn't write his name down. The janitor, opera singer. I wish I would have wrote the show name down and went by so fast I never got his name. But he said, hold on to your dreams because no one cares about them as much as you do. You got to hold on to them. Don't be in the cubicle wishing that you can do this dream and talking to people next to you in a cubicle who wishing they could do a dream. And they're telling you, oh man, or all man, all woman, all person, you know what I'm saying? You just gotta do what you gotta do. We gotta survive, right? We gotta hang in there, right? I'm tired of people saying we gotta hang in there. Stop hanging in there, folks. Climb up. Climb up. Because hanging in there means that you've already given up. Have you ever hung from a bar and done a pull-up? When you're doing pull-ups from a bar and you're doing pull-ups because you're strong, right? You get those pull-ups. But when you can't do any more pull-ups, you hang there, you're giving up. If you're just hanging doing a pull-up, you giving up. You may be taking a break, but you pretty much giving up on the fact that you can do a pull-up at that point. You haven't been fighting, you're not fighting anymore. It's those you see that's pulling up, they're like, and they still get up there to the top and they get their chin up there and they're like, yeah, one more. And then they come back down and they're like, I can do it again. And they fighting for it. The ones who are fighting for it who succeed the most. Got to persevere. I'm excited about this, folks. I'm sorry. If you catch me and I'm really excited about this. It's Super Bowl Sunday, so that too. You know what I'm saying? I'm thinking about that. I'm going to give my predictions later on, but 49ers versus the Chiefs. Some of y'all already know who I am or who I'm a fan of, but yeah. This game is about to be on. So, negative feedback. The article says, use negative feedback to your advantage. I mean, Charles Mann says, use negative feedback to your advantage. Wow. You see, this is what we were talking about before. When you change your trajectory, you need to actually take a look at what is going on. You have to take that step back so you can analyze negative feedback. Not just analyze your mistakes, but people are going to tell you negative feedback. Some negative feedback is going to be good for you. Some negative feedback's not. Analyze it. Pick through it. Sort through it. Figure out what actually can work for you. But remember this. You're not doing it right if you're not getting any negative feedback, period. You have to get some negative feedback somewhere. Somebody's not going to like what you do. I repeat, someone is not going to like what you do. But all you have to do is keep doing it and get better at it. Practice, persevere, make that change in your own life, and use and analyze the negative feedback and take what you can use out of it to mold and shape your world. Now, this one I've had a hard time with. This next one, learn to win. That's number 5. Learn to win. Be a good sport. Now, some people have it in a different pattern. Like, let me explain. Like, some people are terrible winners and they're terrible losers. I guess I'm like kind of a terrible loser. I don't like to lose. But at the same time, I don't know how to accept winning. Like, I could be given awards and I'm just in shock and I'm like, I'm like a deer in headlights. I don't know how to be. I don't know how to. I don't know. I'm just, yeah. I had that experience when I received an award and I couldn't even smile. You know, and maybe there was some self-consciousness. There was some self-consciousness going on there, or whatever it was. I don't even know what happened. I was stuck. Frozen in time. Didn't know what to do, didn't know where to step. And it's because I don't know how to win. Sometimes I miss my wins and I'll see them later. I was like, oh, I won. Hey, wait a minute. Hold up. It was like the other day I was carrying a lottery ticket. I was carrying it for like 3 or 4 months. And I was like, yeah, I'll check it out later. I might have won. I probably won't. When I got ready to check it out, you couldn't even read the numbers anymore, but it scanned. When the guy scanned it 6 months later, almost 190 days later, I won $5. Or was it $2? No, it was $5. That was $5. I don't play a lotto that often. It had been 6 months since I played the lotto. I had won $5. You know, so we got to learn to win. We got to learn to be a good sport, because being a good sport allows us to see our wins and take advantage of them for ourselves. You see, it's a matter, the reason why we need to take advantage of them is because a win makes us feel good. We got to take advantage of that good feeling. We need to take advantage of that good feeling because life is too short. Life is so short that if we don't take advantage of that good feeling, then we won't know that there is a success. We will miss our successes and only see the failures, because the failures stand out to us. The successes sometimes they're minute. And so it takes us learning to win to get to that next level. Which leads me back to the Super Bowl for a second. You know, who's going to win? The big who? You know, I mean, it's funny. I heard this joke yesterday, and I think the guy had an idea on CNN. I think the person, the anchor, had an idea of where they were going to go with it, but they just didn't do it right. You know, I think they should have done the joke like this. The Super Bowl, the big who. It's more like Superb Owl. You see what I'm saying? He was like, Super Bowl, it's more like Superb Owl. I was like, it didn't, I don't know. It probably doesn't even work anyway. It's Superb Owl. I don't know. The big who. That's how I should have done it. But a Super Bowl, the big who. More like Superb Owl. And then you jump into your, I mean, I read it. I wasn't thinking about actually doing it, but I just saw it there. I remember writing Superb Owl next to Super Bowl, and I was like, oh, wow. Excuse me. And so next up, number 6. Let's jump into number 6. I just had to say that about Super Bowl. Number six. Even though that was a failure, I learned from that failure. And I turned around, I rerouted my trajectory and came back with something a little bit better. I think it was a little bit better. You let me know in the comments below. Let me know if that joke was a little bit better the first time or the second time. All right, now, view failures as stepping stones to success. Start to see how failures help us grow. That's what I wrote. Start to see how failures help us grow. View failures as stepping stones. Same thing. I mean, Mr. Charles C. Mann says that it's important for us to view failures as stepping stones to our success. View these failures not as, view them more like what Thomas Edison said. And I had to think about that for a second because I wanted to go back and find some other similarities other than Thomas Edison. But I have to go back to what Thomas Edison said one more time. How he said he didn't learn, he didn't have thousands of failures. He had a whole bunch of successes that he learned from how to make it that path. He made them each individual instances. He took them and he said, okay, this is one stone. I can take this road, but this road is going to lead to this. All right, then I can take this road over here. So let's say, for instance, when we do a survey, we could do a survey with a number of different variables involved, right? We can do a survey, or not even that. We could actually do a test group. Let's do some test grouping here. Let's say in statistics, we talk about test groups all the time. And you might have a test group and you might have a control group. And then you might have several different groups of several different things you want to test. but you have one group that's controlled, right? And so the reason why you have that one control group is so you know that these effects remain that similar. All right. So you know that if you do things this way, it's going to be this way. But if you give somebody this drug, that is going to give them this particular reaction. So you give the control group is a group that you're giving a placebo to, or you're giving that particular drug to. More likely, it's usually the one you're giving that particular drug to. The other group is a group that you're giving something else to, or you're giving several different things to, including that drug or whatever. But if you have several different groups, then you're testing several different drugs on their reaction. Let's say we're talking about drugs, for instance. Pharmaceutical companies are the best ones to do these test groups on because they do it all the time. But, so you're giving several people different drugs to this reaction, but you're giving one group over here a placebo. One group over here, they should have no reaction, all right, to it. But then you go through your study. And when you go through your study, you find the placebo group has more reaction than anybody else. That the other people may not have thought, or may not have felt or had any change in what happened to them because maybe your drug did not work. So in that sense, you learned by using that test group that this particular drug worked, the other people's drugs didn't work. The people in my placebo who thought they were getting a drug actually made themselves better, or might have thought that they made themselves better, when in all actuality, there was nothing that really went on. But you learn from that mistake because you tested that mistake. We have to test our mistakes. And so we have to have several different samples of whatever study or whatever thing we're trying to do, and trying them over and over and over again in different stepping stones, or, different tools, different failures, to conclude to our success, or to come to a conclusion which would be our success. But we have to persevere through all those different steps, even if we got to start over fresh and destroy every single sample. Even if we have to start over fresh and destroy every single sample. Some people have to do that with their scripts. Write a script, throw it out, start over. We talk about that all the time too in the film and television industry. All right, MC Hammer. Speak of that, MC Hammer. Now, many of you have seen this new commercial coming out of Super Bowl, MC Hammer. Now, I'm glad to see that. You know why? Because unbeknownst to many of you, MC Hammer has been back there in the shadows making things go. MC Hammer, aka Hammer, I performed with him on his rooftop in the music video This Is the Way We Roll. You see the kid with the trumpet? That was me. It came out of my trumpet at the beginning of that. Yes, I know. They stuck a camera with a tube. It was like new technology in the early 90s in my trumpet, and they pulled it out of my trumpet. And then I go, me and Sebastian and Carlos turned to our left and go, ba-da-ba. That was us as kids. I'm rolling on. And then I'm on the rooftop with No Bones and them sitting on a chair going, playing the Horns of Fire licks. All right. Now, anyway, MC Hammer, aka Hammer. Now, he was called Hammer when I was working with him. Changed his direction, and he utilized failures as stepping stones. You see, most of you all remember the story of MC Hammer getting broke and going bankrupt and then becoming a religious leader, right? But what you don't know is that this religious leader became a tech guru. And this religious leader also, you may not know this, also is a teacher at Stanford, or a lecturer at Stanford University. One of the tech capitals, one of the college tech capitals, or university, the highest tech universities in our nation, I want to say. I think because Stanford puts out so much, and they're located near all the other stuff in Silicon Valley. So you got this whole world, right? You got this whole world that we have, or is that still, I know where Stanford is, but I don't really know where they call the cutoff for Silicon Valley. So I might be wrong there. But anyway, I just had to rewind that. I was like, I really don't know on the map what is Silicon Valley. I don't. I mean, I've been in Silicon Valley. I know the general area, but I don't know. So anyway, All right. So I just had to be truthful about that. You know, if I'm being truthful, you know, things I don't know, things I do know. And sometimes, and I'm probably gonna look it up right after this, so I do know. So it's in my head because I don't like to not know stuff when I'm talking about it. I like to be sure about it. And if I'm not sure, you'll see me looking it up. So with that being said, or telling you that I'm unsure. So he went from one journey of his life and he changed his trajectory, but he didn't give up. He didn't give up so much that they even brought him back in a commercial doing the MC Hammer. I can't touch this. Can't touch this. I just gotta say, you know what I mean? As for his age, he still looks good, and he still can do his parachute dance off the screen. So, props to MC Hammer. Now, back to these. He didn't stop. He didn't stop even when the chips were down, even when he had to give up his house, even when he had to give up everything because he went bankrupt. He persevered. He found an opportunity to view his failures as stepping stones and then change those stepping stones in an opportunity for him to find opportunities in his failure. See, he was able to go back through each stepping stone and say, okay, oh, well, maybe this is why this failed. Let's test that. Boom, oh, ouch, that hurt. It blew up in my face. Okay, well, maybe this is why this fell. Oh. Now he's got new samples of those new samples. So he's got the steps to how he got there. He knows the steps and how he got there. It's just a matter of figuring out if those steps work for him. And see, for me, that's the same thing. I've gotten there. I've made it there. I mean, I've completed my dream, more dreams than most people have in their lifetime. I mean, in their whole lifetime. I've created more dreams than, well, most families have in their lifetime. Because I can count 5 or 6 dreams I've completed in my life. Most people can't count that. You see, I didn't learn when to win. So when I completed my dreams, I didn't know I had. Until now. Well, I don't want to say now, but until this time in my life. The past few years, I started to look back and I went, oh, well, you know, I was a professional musician for some time. I was a paid actor for some time. I was a producer for some time. I've done these things. I set out to do them. I went out to do them and I did them. It's just a matter of me recognizing that they were complete. And that's what each of us have to do when it comes to learning to win so that we can find the opportunities in our failure. Number 7. If we learn to win, we view our failures as stepping stones, then we find opportunities in failure. That means you got to keep grinding. You know, now that you got these little bits, keep grinding on it. Keep grinding on it. Be watchful. Look for little things. Look for little things that cause you to change or allow you to change it and mold it and shape it and create it in the term that you want it so that you make it happen. You know, number 8, learn from failure. I'm going to tell you this one more time. Grow to go. I love saying that one. Genius and insanity. There is a thin line between genius and insanity. And the thin line is the insane person doesn't grow from what they know. They don't grow from their failures. They keep going over it, back over it, over and over again, and not looking at the data, not taking a step back so they can take a step forward and grow to go. So make sure you grow to go and accept your real failures. Where did you really fail? Did we try hard enough? Where did you really fail? I say, did you really try hard enough in some areas? I mean, I know that in some places where I felt like I failed, I only did half-ass work. For all you teens out there would know, I know your parents have probably said that. Why are you doing it half-assed? You know what I mean? Put your elbow grease in it. Put your whole heart into it. Put your passion into it. I failed in some cases because my whole heart wasn't into what I wanted or what I was doing at the time. Or I didn't have a motivation like doing my dream. And because of this particular job, it's allowing me to do my dream. A motivation, a muse, or whatever. to help me say that I'm going to find as much meaning out of this job as I want to so that I can do this. But you got to accept your real failures. Where are the real failures? The real failures are when you didn't really try hard. Did you try hard enough? Where did you really fail? Where? Look for those. And last but not least, look beyond yourself. Now, a lot of people are like, well, look beyond myself. How am I supposed to see? It's not about me. It's about we. I call that. That's what I call it. You've heard me say it. It's not about me. It's about we. It needs to be us. It needs to be sometimes it takes us looking beyond ourselves so that we can reach out and help somebody else and figure out that that's what we need to be doing at that time. Remember I was telling you at the very beginning, those of us who have helped only one person, as long as we've helped one person in the world and we're doing what we're supposed to do here, when we notice that we've helped that person, sometimes it's after the fact, but the fact that we help someone get to the next level, the fact that we help someone grow so that they can go, is us growing to go. You see what I mean? So that we all go. Because if we all go as a community, we all grow as a community. You see that? You see, they go hand in hand. And so remember that it's not about me, it's about we. And now, for my Super Bowl prediction. This is Doc Rio Super Bowl prediction. Of course, I'm going with the home team, the San Francisco 49ers. The score is going to be 37-36 49ers. And some of y'all are going to look back at this and go, he was either real stupid when he did this prediction, or some of y'all are going to look back and go, wow, he was prophetic. But anyway, this is Doc Rio. I hope you enjoyed this show. Stay tuned for more. Stay tuned for more in the Hot Box with Doc Rio as we get ready. We get ready to step on out of here. Some of y'all getting ready for that Doc Rio roll. So yeah, but anyway, just stay tuned, folks, and keep your pep up and have a great Super Bowl. Try to enjoy this weekend. Try to enjoy the gladiators out there, doing the real entertainment for us, doing the real physical entertainment for us, because I don't want to say real entertainment. There's entertainment all over, but a lot of the other entertainment we watch is imagined or reality TV, but the real physical entertainment comes from those gladiators out there playing those sports, getting out there. And those are the real ones who stick in our hearts, who stick in our minds, and the ones we have a hard time forgetting. I'm still hurting like everybody else. Good men and good people go too early sometimes, And so once again, my condolences go out there to the families of the helicopter crash right here in Calabasas. All the families. This is Doc. I hope to see you next week right here in the Hot Box with Doc Rio, where I don't know, I might change up. I don't have another lesson prepped and I don't have anything in mind just yet, but I might figure out something. So stay tuned. This is Doc, and we are getting ready to be out of here. Stay tuned for more Doc in the Hot Box with Doc Rio TV next week. Same time, same station. Peace. I'm out of here.
There it is. If you need to reach us on Facebook, it's at doc.rio, yeah. On Twitter at Doc Rio Rants. On Instagram, the picture way. And every time I come, I'm here to stay. Snapping photos and get it right. It's at Doc Rio tonight. Say, on YouTube, you can't stop by Doc Rio TV. That's where you see me. That's where you see me. Hit us up on RioBucks.com. Yeah. Back to your regularly scheduled program now. Peace. I'm out.
TV.